I assume everyone who is also disabled, there are others in the audience. I figure we could just all share our stories and just chat. Does that sound fine to everyone? Okay, well, my name is Kaylee. I've been disabled since I was born. I was born with a rare disease called Perthes-Lee calf disease. So basically what it does is it takes the ball of your hip and it disintegrates it. I recently just had my hip replaced. If it wasn't considered indecent exposure, I would show everyone my scar. I still cosplay. Obviously, I still game and stuff like that. I had a hard time coming to terms with that because I felt like I wasn't good enough to do it because I had a lot of people joke on me and stuff as a kid. I didn't always walk with a cane. I'd kind of walk bow-legged as a kid and people were like, oh, you walk like a penguin. I'm like, yeah, well, no shit, my legs aren't even, so hey. So fun stuff. Would anyone else like to share their stuff? Yeah.
Well, because we came together. Okay. Hi, I'm Charlie.
Hi, Charlie.
No, I'm gonna talk from here. I'll get like the class.
It is. It's like a college class. You know, if the professor doesn't show up within 15 minutes, you can fuck off and do whatever.
Yeah. I'm hard of hearing. I've had a hearing disability since I was born. I had my inner ears didn't develop properly, so I've always had that kind of issue. My biggest problem with gaming is that subtitles being like required for gaming is very new. Because I know I've been trying to play older games, but I don't know what's happening because I can't hear it. And even now, it's always kind of frustrating that should subtitles be in video games is a debate. It's like, what do you mean it's a debate? I can't play video games if they don't have them. I just like turn them off. So that and then
Get your ass up here.
Who, me?
Yeah, you. Come on.
Well, I don't have anything. Okay, well.
You said I'm just gonna jump up here. Fuck the stairs.
You said no gamer words.
I haven't said the gamer word yet.
No.
That's not the real gamer word.
And then another issue that comes with subtitles is, do people know how to like accurately, like, you can't have white subtitles on a light background, but people are like, well, the subtitles are there. But a lot of people who don't have those issues with accessibility or realize that I don't have this issue, but just if you have one disability doesn't mean you can't have other ones. So if you have a hearing disability doesn't mean that you also don't have issues with like colors or seeing colors and things like that. And I see people joining. This panel was actually canceled.
We took over.
Yeah, for disabled people who game.
The disabled gamers took over.
Yeah.
My big issue with video games is motion controls. Since I can't exactly do everything, like I think Ring Fit is like a really good idea, but there should definitely be like options for those who are like sitting in a wheelchair or doing something like that. Like you're telling me they can't like do lifts, stuff like that. I don't know the actual term. Do I look like I exercise? No. But like, because I would have issues doing the squats and stuff because of my hip, and it's been healing since I've gotten the replacement hip in here, which, fun fact, I had it done at Johns Hopkins right up the road. If y'all are from Maryland, y'all know that's super close. So yeah. So like, that's like a thing I've struggled with personally.
I know that for some, at least some virtual reality gaming, not very many yet, but have an option to play it seated versus playing it standing.
You're absolutely right. I have a friend who, I know she wouldn't mind me disclosing her information. She's paraplegic and she has spina bifida and she can, obviously cannot leave her chair. And when the PlayStation came out with their VR system, she had a lot of trouble just doing anything because she was seated in her chair. She was like, I wish I knew this before I bought it. I wish there was some kind of accessibility, version or something for people like me. Because she's like, I want to sit here and enjoy this like everyone else. Why do I have to be excluded just because this is my situation?
Because I know not every single game would be necessarily equally adapted.
But it could.
Most of them are. Like, most
exactly.
Of them play the same when you see it. Because you're already using the thumb pad or other controls to move.
Well, and like even with like hidden disabilities, like someone who has like asthma or something like that, maybe they still want to play the game, but they can't be like physically jumping and stuff like that. I'm not saying like Just Dance has to have like, all the time, but like something like that, like it definitely needs to be done. And like, hi, hi, if you're just coming in, this panel was actually canceled, but we took over, so please come on in.
Yeah. You don't have to come in if you don't want to. Like, you're not gonna hurt our feelings. And anyone's
okay, the world's already hurt our feelings.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to play all the old Star Wars games. I have a lot more issues going on than that.
I also have like issues reading, and I have dyslexia, so like even playing a simple RPG like Pokemon really F's me up. I'm like, oh well, I guess I didn't mean to buy that many Pokeballs, but here we are.
Do you feel like there's like better or worse like fonts for like?
Absolutely.
Like, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Color options too.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
I'm a game designer with a visual impairment. I have like sight issues, and there's like actually specifically fonts that can use their like dyslexic friendly.
Right.
Yeah, like I know like you know Comic Sans, like everybody like done from Comic Sans.
But Comic Sans is like a really accessible.
Dyslexia friendly like fonts because like the letters all look like significantly different from one another.
I know it's not really gaming, but self-plug. I do A and B editing for a lot of the cons up and down the East Coast, KatsuCon being one of them, was one I used to do. And I know a lot of people are like, well, why don't you use flashier words or whatever in your bumpers or intros? And I was like, because I want everybody to be able to read them.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I think people don't really mean to come from like a hurtful place of that. And I'm not saying that there isn't people who don't come from a hurtful place like that, but it's like, if you don't have that issue actively going on in your life, why would I think about it? And I think like a big important part with disability in general is whether you're disabled, an ally, or have a friend, family, whatever, who is disabled, you need to definitely bring awareness to the situation. Like, again, I know this isn't exactly gaming, but like even when everyone was like, oh my God, we've got marriage equality now. And I'm like, no, actually, we don't.
Yeah.
Okay? The fact that I cannot marry my fiance and claim disability is absolute bullcrap.
Oh yeah.
Also, to the people who just walked in, we're not the actual panelists. We just kind of took over.
Because
Just a nice little disclaimer.
it was canceled. You can leave. You won't hurt anyone's feelings. If anyone wants to walk out, you are more than welcome to. Because, okay, not you. You're my fiance. You're not allowed to leave.
I mean, he could, but that's his decision. We'll just send him back to Canada.
Yeah.
So yeah, but like I feel like the best thing you could do as like someone's friend or someone who's not like actively dealing with a situation like that is, ask them how can I raise awareness? What can I do to be a better ally for you and with you?
I feel like a lot of the issue that comes with stuff like this too is because, I think it's like changing now where people are now like very pro subtitles, whereas when I was in high school, which I graduated in 2015, so it wasn't too long ago, it was like a constant battle with teachers and fellow students because I would need subtitles on the screen. I know some people find them distracting, which is totally valid, but like I have like a disability and I need to see these things. And they're like, well, you're bothering me. And I was like, well, you're bothering me. It's like, what do you do? And even I've had classes where like was required to take a second language for class. I'm sorry, this isn't video games, but it's just interesting how hard it is to get for things to be accessible, because I feel like when you come to the disabled community or anything around that, it's not as profitable. So it's like, why am I spending all this money for something that is like what people feel is like going to be a need, like a small group? Whereas like, well, I mean, if you are disabled, I mean, you want a game, and there are a lot of people who
even with like education, it might not be like strictly gaming, but everyone has to start with a base, and if you don't start with education, you're gonna fail.
Yeah.
So like that's how I feel. Not to like undermine yours.
No, I don't care.
You said I don't care. Undermine me all you want.
Well, because like we were talking about this earlier, like not even part of this, but how you have trouble with subtitles and you wait for dubs of anime because the subtitles would bother you, can't read them.
I know, like, it's specifically, especially like for sure, I know it's not an anime con, but whatever. We're not official. Especially like reading like manga or something like that. And a lot of times in video games, if they do like the comic format or something like that, I have a hard time reading it because I'm dyslexic and I have to like sit there and like slow down or like pause it and like go on and stuff. And I'm like, why isn't there an option to like slow it down a little bit? Why isn't there, even with color blindness, why isn't there more accessibility towards this or anything like that? Like you could really just help us out. And it's not, I'm not gonna say it's not that hard because I'm not a programmer. I don't know. Speak up if I am saying something stupid, by all means. I think they disappeared. Okay.
I didn't have my hand. Sorry, I didn't have my hand up.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine. But it really, just that added, like, you know, little bit in your game makes someone's difference, you know? Not only that, it's just like, hey, I can actually be a part of something. I don't feel like isolated and ostracized. I just combined both the words. It's okay, we do that. And it's just like, hey, you know, again, it comes down with what can I do to be a good ally and a good friend towards those who are disabled.
The subtitles issue kind of makes me think of the difference between designing accessibility when you're going to have multiple or a large group or multiple people interacting with something versus a video game that's going to be by necessity a more personalized experience. Because like with a film with subtitles, there's going to be some people for whom subtitles are really distracting, and there's going to be some people for whom subtitles are the only way you can really access the medium.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're going to have to either balance that out or find a way to, like some movie theaters do, where they have a little, like, a screen reader or something, so that
right.
who want subtitles can see them, people who don't have to. But for something like a video game, where by necessity is designed for mostly only one person, maybe a few people, that allows you a lot more freedom as to what you're capable of putting in, because you don't have to worry that you're, you know, going for a huge group where some people might not want subtitles. If someone doesn't want subtitles, they just need to turn them on.
Well, yeah, exactly. Just having the option to have them be turned on or turned off, like, it literally makes a difference. And like someone said before, having, you know, the accessibility fonts. You know, I've had people joke on me, like, take a screenshot of something and they're like, why do you have that font? I'm like, bro, I want to be able to read, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Very simple thing. And my main thing with it is, like, I also think VR games could be more accessibility friendly. That's like my big one. I could go on and on about that.
And there's no reason for them to not be.
It's literally just like you said, I understand, like, yes, you're programming stuff. I'm not like discrediting someone for working hard on a game already, but if you just add just that little, it's just a tiny little thing that can make the difference to someone's whole world. Whether it be someone like our age or someone younger who's like, oh my God, I'm just now getting into video games and this is something that I can feel included in. Because, like, whether it be disability or anything else, it, you know, representation matters so much. And that'll bring me to, like, my next topic is, I don't think those who are disabled get the best representation in video games. Oh, yeah. Usually if something happens, I remember, and you'll probably hop into this, I don't even remember the name of the Otome game. Judge me all you want. But, huh?
Was it Katsuo Shoujo?
No, we can, I got strong feelings about Kawada Shoujo, okay? But I don't know if that's, like, completely okay to talk about that, because that goes on into whether I think you're fetishizing a disability or not.
Yeah, and I don't know, like, because for anyone who keeps, like, walking, I feel bad because I see it one person, this panel was canceled, and so there is no, like, set thing going on. So I also don't know, like, what is acceptable in the MAGFest, like, forum. So maybe we don't talk about that one very often.
You can talk to me after the panel.
Yeah.
You're more than welcome. I will sit and talk about. But like, I remember specifically reading an Otome. I don't remember the name of it because it was, like, back in 2014. So, like, forgive me. But one of the characters' roots ended up with him being disabled in a wheelchair, and he was like, "Well, my life is over. I should just kill myself." And I'm like, okay, thanks, bro. You know, like,
that happened in the newest Yakuza game too. You haven't played it. I'm sorry, I see your hand up.
No, I was just gonna ask if I could hop up there with you.
No, you can come
yeah,
up here.
Come on.
Yeah.
Not to be like a jackass or whatever.
Oh,
no.
Like,
I mean, if we're being real, we'd be the OG jackasses since we jumped up here.
Yeah.
So, like, please, by all means, like, if anyone wants to come up and, like, talk, I don't care.
because I just figured, I mean, like, so, hi, I'm Christina, by the way. Hello.
Hi, Christina. Like I said, we're gonna treat this like an AA meeting.
I figured I would have a different perspective from you guys because I'm autistic and I have ADHD, and so, like.
So it's not like a physical disability.
So it's not
yeah,
like a
by
physical
all means,
disability,
please, yeah.
but it's still very much something. I mean, I feel like there's so many people in the gaming communities who are autistic and or ADHD and or neurodivergent without knowing it, and especially what you said about representation, I was like, ooh, the ones I can think of are not great. If there are,
Right.
you know.
Right. Well, and like my youngest sibling has ADHD and
Sure.
my niece is autistic.
Sure.
And she has, like, a hard time because she's like, I don't understand this. The maps aren't easy for me to read.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And, like, it kills me because she's like a 9-year-old and she's like wants to do this. She wants to play these games because my sister, her mother, plays video games, and she doesn't really play on that neurodivergent level. And she's like, I want to be like Mom. I want to be able to play this. She's like, but I have a hard time doing this. And she'll look at me and she'll be like, Auntie KK, am I doing something wrong? And it breaks my heart because I'm like, no, you're not doing something wrong. You're reading it to the best of your ability. It should be more accessible.
But do you feel like the answer to that is like, again, like anybody can jump in like whenever, otherwise I'll just be provoking discussion.
Oh, please.
But like,
Yeah.
I feel like the answer to that is, well, maybe she should play different games that are more accessible, like a different genre or a different like a fundamentally different type of game, or is the answer like, hey, let's make this type of game more accessible?
I don't think she should have to sit there and pick certain games because that's limiting to her. If my 9-year-old niece wants to sit down and play Pokemon, why can't she sit down and play Pokemon, which is a kid's game?
Yeah, I think another question too is like, what is accessible for one person that has that's autistic may not be accessible for another person who is autistic. Exactly. That's kind of the issue too that comes to talking about accessibility, is because everyone is like, their disability is so different in what their experience is. So like, what helps me will not help someone else.
I think a big thing that gaming companies, whether they're indie gamers or AAA companies, is I think that they should have someone sitting there going, hey, what can we do to help out? Yeah. What can we do to like kind of make this better and stuff like that? It doesn't cost.
Like a QA tester.
Yeah, like QA.
Like to have someone as a consultant. Hi, welcome in. We took over the panel, but you can come and sit down and enjoy it.
Yeah. I think you're staff, but it was canceled and no one told anyone here, so we're all just sitting here.
We are talking about relevant stuff, yes.
I think a cool thing that I've seen video games do just in general accessibility is a fair number of games have like assist mode or straight up just God mode, where for players that like they're not great at platforming or they're not great at like the shooting part of it, they can still experience the game but as invincible. So they just experience the story and they enjoy like the story of it instead.
Oh, sorry, you go ahead.
No, it's so funny that you mentioned God mode because it made me think of Hades like immediately.
Yeah.
That's exactly what helped me do that, because I was like, oh, Lord, what am I doing?
I mean, like, it made me think, like, I, like, blasted through, like, Control, like, over, like, 4 or 5 days, like, before coming here. And, like, Control also has, like, an assist mode, which will help you, like, with aiming or with different things. But it's so interesting that you bring that up, because I feel like within the gaming community, there's still, like, this stigma against playing games on easy mode or like,
baby mode,
as
a lot of people refer,
or whatever. I mean, like I'll joke about it with my husband all the time, because my husband is like one of those hardcore gamers, like playing everything on nightmare mode, like speed running Dark Souls and like whatever. And like he'll be joking with me and be like, "Oh, are you playing this on easy?" And I'm like,
"Yeah, I am. I want to enjoy the game. I don't like want to sweat my my everything off. I'm just trying to have fun."
Yeah.
Exactly. My tiny brain can only take so much. Leave me alone.
Literally.
Thank you.
You had your hand raised for a while.
Y'all mind if I take a seat?
Yeah, go for it.
Also, while you're coming up here, this has nothing to do with video games, but because this was canceled, so of course not. But I would like to point out that it's very ironic that I've been talking about like hearing disabilities and stuff like that, and there's like no subtitles, no anyone to work here. As I went to a panel yesterday, and there was an interpreter, but she came like 30 minutes late. Oh, no. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that has to be so frustrating at this point. Like, you've missed everything.
Yeah.
All the lead up. It's like, well, I mean, I guess you could catch up now.
Well, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Charles. I've been in the gaming community for like 5 years now.
Hi, Charles.
Hi, Charles.
Hi, Charles.
Thank you, everyone. And I feel like I could help talk about some of these issues because I'm also autistic. My doctor just dropped it on me one day, told me nothing, didn't even test me.
Oh, that's fun.
That's really how it be. That's really
it really do.
You like that.
I thought that was great.
They're like, what do you mean you didn't know this before?
Yeah.
Like, you're my doctor, tell me.
Yeah. Oh, you didn't know?
I've had friends from childhood come up to me after I told them, oh yeah, I just got diagnosed autistic. They're like, you didn't know before?
I have a friend who's a streamer on Twitch, and they were literally talking about how they thought they were ADHD, and they went to go talk to their parents about it, and they're like, oh yeah, you were diagnosed at like 7.
Oh yeah.
And they're like, you didn't bother to tell me? Like, hello?
It really be like that.
Go on, by all means.
Well, nobody that like nobody that you talk to on a normal basis is going to tell you you're acting strange.
Yes.
And especially not like your parents.
Yes.
So when someone says you're autistic, it's a drop on you. It's a surprise.
Yes. Especially because your parents may all there's a very high genetic correlation, and so your parents may also be autistic or neurodivergent or have ADHD, and this is what happened to me is, like my dad looked at things I would do and he would be like, well, that's just, kind of quirky, or, oh, I would do stuff like that, or like I asked him after I got diagnosed, oh, did you ever have any repetitive behaviors as a kid? And he was like, well, yeah, I had this box of pennies under my bed, and sometimes I would take them out and I would count them and put them in little stacks because it was soothing. And I was like, that's not normal child behavior, Dad. And he was like, oh.
See, the way my dad, because not only am I, like I said, like with the hip and everything, I don't know how you would want to classify that.
Like a physical disability?
Yeah, like a physical disability. I do have anxiety and like a major anxiety and depression disorder. And
Nice.
I found that out when I was in grade school, or as my dad liked to say, he was like, we have to calm the rabbit.
Oh.
So that was his thing, because like I didn't know how to express.
Yeah.
Because for context, I was born in '93 and I lived in the middle of nowhere in Texas. So like obviously that wasn't like the most disability friendly place to be.
Yeah.
Well, I'm from West Virginia, so
So
yeah.
yeah, exactly, right. Literally the school didn't have a ramp, so they had to build a ramp for me because
Oh, that's kind of cute though.
Like, this is after like the ADA is
yeah. So yeah, they had to do that, and they got a wheelchair. Yeah. It was a very old building.
it was like grandfathered in.
Yeah, they recently tore it down within like the past couple of years, the elementary school. But yeah, they.
Oh, I thought just the ramp.
Oh yeah, no, just the ramp. They said no, that kid doesn't go here anymore. We're gonna tear it down. No one else will ever need
one-time
this.
case.
But I grew up in a tiny town, and I was the only girl, and I not the only girl, but I was the only girl. I was the only girl and person in my class or the whole school district that had a disability that put me in a wheelchair, and they just didn't know how to deal with me.
Yeah, it's usually left up to you to
right, and I'm like in kindergarten.
assess
I don't know
yourself.
how to express my needs to you.
You basically have to tell them how they need to treat you.
Yeah.
Right, and like, how do you do that at like age 5? I'm like, I don't
It's
know,
like,
bro.
I don't know how I need to be treated.
I don't know how to. I'm like, dude, give me a juice box and let me watch Barney, and I'm good. Like, leave me alone. Like, but so that was like my issue, and then like with my anxiety issue, I didn't know how to express that, and I would look at my dad and I'd be like, they're making me nervous, and he was like, you're 5. What do you have to be nervous over? And I'm like, I don't think you understand, Dad. And I'd like pull him down and be like, they're making me nervous. So I think with having like accessibility options in video games and just in media in general, so a kid has that to look
all
through.
the way back.
Exactly. I had a point. I promise you. To do that and have that representation in video games, whether it be for younger kids or older kids or whatever, you can be like, oh my God, they're like me.
Mm-hmm.
This is how they express themselves. Maybe I should try expressing myself that way. So you can have that. And it's just so important to have that representation in media, because like, if you don't have someone who's like you, they're not going to understand. And I'm not saying that like someone who is able-bodied can't understand, but it's more of an empathy than it is I completely get you.
Yeah.
And that's how I personally feel about that.
I have a question for you. You said you started gaming 5 years ago. Is there a specific reason that you didn't start, or
Specific reason that I didn't start?
like, well, I don't know. I feel like I was like, I'm a lifelong gamer. I'm just curious. It has nothing to do with accessibility, but it's gonna drive me crazy. If
No,
I
it's
ask
not an
you.
accessibility thing. I was just poor.
Oh no.
Oh,
that's
bro,
fine.
same.
Yeah.
But I feel like that, I mean, I also only fairly recently got into, like, very properly into gaming. And I feel like that's an interesting point, not just in terms of, like, the accessibility, but also, like, how do I put this? Like, I feel like so many games are kind of like for ADHD people or autistic people, it's very easy to like hyper focus on it and like, or like pour all these hours.
Right. Well, because like you said, I didn't have a lot of money growing up as a kid, but the games I did play were the ones I would constantly play. And I hated it. Like, I would sit there and like, I specifically remember playing like Ocarina of Time as a kid and deciding this was too hard for me. I couldn't figure it out. And it felt bad because like, I didn't know, like,
I didn't know about, my dyslexia or anything like that. But if I had a game with a character like that in there, maybe I would have understood better.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's just me because of my. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Just want to jump back in. I'm not video game specific here, but I'm genuinely curious how you got diagnosed autistic without, did you actually, I know that's really personal.
No, man, go for it. Listen, I'm the one who walked up here.
Yeah, right. You're I walked up here. This is
We all just
willingly.
kinda
Yeah,
walked up
exactly.
here.
Yeah.
Did you actually get formally tested to test that you were autistic? It just seems strange that it was just truth bomb. I don't know.
Oh, I mean, do you want to go, or?
Oh, you want me to answer that question?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Only if you're comfortable.
I mean, listen, truth be told, I'm curious about it too. There was no logistics behind it. I was never formally tested.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if my doctor just assumed or not. I think he did.
Honestly, it was kind of a very similar experience for me, which was when I was in my freshman year of undergrad, and I started seeing a therapist for being anxious. And about 6 months after seeing her, she was like, "Hey, I want you to take this test for me," and it was the autism quotient. And I took it. I got some high score or whatever. And she was like, "Yeah, I'm I think you are probably autistic, but I can't officially diagnose you because it's not my specialty. You need to go to a neuropsychologist to get the official evaluation done." But she was like, "Here's some books you can read about it." And I read the books and I was like, "Well, this explains
He went,
everything."
"Oh, that me."
Yeah, literally.
Oh, that
literally.
explains my
This
entire
explains
life.
way too much about me. And then but part of the problem with receiving a formal evaluations is I don't think basically no neuropsychologist takes insurance, and so you have to pay out of pocket typically, which is exorbitantly expensive.
I know the Canadian in the audience is stupid American healthcare.
Yeah,
I'm calling you out.
Just from personal experience, I have ADHD. And
Sure.
I know I had it for a while, but I got formally tested so I can see a new psychiatrist recently. And there are certain responsiveness tests that they can give you.
Mm-hmm.
Especially I took one that was one I took one medicated and the other I took without. And it was, you were supposed to press a button in response to a given prompt.
Yeah.
And so they test how long the delay is between the prompt and you pressing the button, whether or not you overcorrect between, if you miss one, if you overcorrect for the next one, and what you, how you behave in various metrics. So there are some measurable tests that are out there, and if you've never had them before, someone can give a handful of those to you and stay reasonable.
Even as an adult, a lot of the tests are also geared towards children is the other thing. But so the other wrinkle in my story is I didn't get tested throughout undergrad, and then when I went to grad school, I was like, oh, this might be a good idea, especially because the disability office was like, you need a formal diagnosis to get accommodations, and I was like, okay. But it turned out that the gold standard autism test, the ADOS, you can't take it if you're wearing a mask. And this was in August of 2020.
Oh my God.
I was like, oh, well. So I believe it's because part of the criteria for being diagnosed with ASD is, looking at your nonverbal body language and the nonverbal body cues that you're giving off. And so essentially they were like, if you're wearing a mask, we can't see the bottom of your face, I think that's the reasoning. It's
No, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I was just curious about it because, I technically have language processing disorder.
Mm-hmm.
And it's I feel like a topic that's not talked about on the neurodivergent spectrum.
No, you're absolutely right.
yeah.
I would love to talk to people how I feel like a YouTube loading screen.
Yeah.
It's funny because we did not know this. I was diagnosed as a 3-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
They had to give me formal testing as a child in order for it to help me in the educational academic sphere.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I would not get accommodations.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why I was so curious about how do you get a truth bomb out without taking your medicine?
Yeah.
Also, that kind of brings into a different conversation there about, I guess, the affordability. You do have to pay out of pocket essentially to get this testing in order for you to be entitled to certain educational programs that will help you.
Yeah.
Ultimately, allow you to make more money to have that. So
Yeah.
it's interesting because of the system with like accessibility is so catered not to lower income.
Oh, no, it absolutely is not.
Yeah, it's definitely a privilege you have to pay for.
It really is. And not to cut anyone off, I had that issue when I found out about my hip. Like, clearly you could look at an x-ray and be like, yeah, that's a very screwed up hip. But because my father unfortunately lost insurance, I couldn't even take off from gym class. They would force me to do like the mile run and stuff like that, and I couldn't do it. But they're like, you know what? We're Texas, and we think we're right, and you don't have any doctor proof saying that you're disabled, so you're gonna have to do this anyway. And me being the spiteful person I am, I just walk anyway. I'd be like, whatever, I don't care. But it's just the fact that like, if I was like in a wheelchair, I don't think they would question that. And that comes again with the hidden disabilities. I think when people automatically think of disabilities, they're like, oh, well, they look disabled. And I'm like, okay, but you don't have to necessarily look disabled to need the accommodation. And I think that comes a lot in video games and stuff like that. Cause it's like, well, you don't look like you need it. And I'm like, okay, well, I do.
Yeah, like something I just thought of is like, I mean, one, I have auditory processing issues, so like oftentimes like don't
like the subtitles. Yeah,
I don't need subtitles, but they are really, really
they're
helpful.
Like as long as you're there. Yeah, exactly.
Channels of audio happening at once. But the other thing is, because of either the autism or the ADHD, if I'm listening to like verbal instructions and they're not written down in a place where I can go and access them later, poof, they're out of my head. It's gone. And so that was one of the accommodations I specifically had to ask for in grad school. Was I was like, okay, my PI needs to give me instructions written down. Like, I can't just listen and like be able to like do it, you know? And so I feel like, you know, video games, generally I haven't had a huge issue with like, oh, is like the object, like, because there's always like, you know, oh, this is like,
I'm so sorry.
You're fine.
So that's okay. It woke me up.
Like, it's like, oh, this is where you need to go for the quest or whatever. But sometimes, like, especially if I pick up a game that I haven't played in a while, I'm like,
thank you.
I'm like, what? Like, where? What is happening?
Well, I know a lot of people.
I was gonna say I feel the same way. Like, just because I was seeing what time it was, just wanted to add. Like, I feel like accessibility, at least for me in video games, has gotten better. But my issue is hearing. So of course I can just like, now you have so many like sound options. I can just turn everything down, turn subtitles on and stuff like that.
Little stuff like that makes a difference. Yeah. I know a lot of people will complain about a game being too hand-holdy and stuff, and I'm like, bro, sometimes please hold my hand.
Need it, please.
Yeah.
I'm like the only person who liked the Skyward Sword. And I was like, thank you.
No, me too. Thank you.
Yeah, I just feel like the only issue I have is that I feel like I've missed out on so much like video game history because it's so inaccessible to me, because if there aren't subtitles, I don't know what you're saying, so don't say it to me.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna talk to you in a conversation. I talk a lot about gaming and education, and I always love those panels. I think it's so cool. And I definitely think accessibility in gaming is a problem. But like on the flip side, do you think gaming has a role in like helping people with disabilities, or being used as physical therapy or like a soothing tool, or
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that, because this is like, I hate, like, this is like not the example everyone wants to bring up, because I'm younger, I'm 24, so an issue I have with like hearing disability is that, well, you're young, so you can't have issues. I'm like, okay, wig. But when we talk about like helping, like the Wii is still very popular in nursing homes. I don't know if anybody has a family member in a nursing home. I do. And I think because like the like movements and like that kind of stuff is like good for the elderly to get them moving. And I'm not comparing like any physical disability to
No.
Like,
You're absolutely well, and like specifically as far as like you know, mental disabilities or whatever go, little Kaylee lore for you. I mean, is this not what it all is? I was in a mental hospital for a short period of time, and they would bring in like the Wii and gaming stuff like that to kind of like lift our spirits and stuff like that. And doing something and interacting with people made us feel better. I also know, like you mentioned with the nursing homes, doing like little stuff like that, like repetitive games or whatever like that, actually helps out the elderly with those who have dementia and stuff, because they're doing something and their mind is going to focus on that. Yes.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, definitely. I love the fact that online, because like Whereas like we were growing up, there wasn't like the concept of online gaming, but now you can find and meet people like you. And I don't, and this is just me personally, like y'all can jump in at any point. I don't feel as judged.
Oh yeah.
Being with a group of people who are like me, who are going through similar struggles or the same struggles.
I think also on the previous point of games as like, you know, a tool for disabled people, I feel like I can't think of any games that are like this off the top of my head, but I feel like definitely for children who are autistic and may have like lower like support needs, like I feel like games to like teach like kind of social skills, quote unquote, or like, hey, this is how this person might be feeling when they say this or when they do this. Like,
you can easily do like a visual novel style game like that.
Like I feel like that would be like, that was part of the reason why, like, I mean, I would read books all the time when I was a kid, but also
oh bro,
like,
same.
Like, you know, that's why like I got so into like, you know, fictional media in general, because I was like, wow, this is, you know, helping me understand why people act the way they act, because otherwise I'm like, okay, it's just completely inscrutable.
Right. And I feel like that like always comes back to the whole representation matters. I know it's not technically a video game, but it's based off a video game. But like when I was watching Arcane, I instantly fell in love with Victor because I was like, holy shit, that's a guy with a cane. That's like me, and stuff like that. And I feel like he's represented well because even though, spoiler alert, he does like
League of Legends.
For League of Legends, right? Like anyone actually cares. But anyway, like later on, he does become this machine and stuff like that. But like it made me feel a little bit better about getting my hip replacement because I was like, oh God, you know, is this something I should do at the age of 28? But like seeing something like that, even though it might have not been in like the best manner, made me feel better about myself and like, ugh.
Did you have any issues with, well, it was more because I have, like, because he's like dying from all the fart gas from like Zon or whatever, but because he's trying to like, quote unquote, fix himself or like extend his life.
Right.
When he threw down his cane and started running, did you have any issues with that personally, or did you enjoy that?
I cried. And I didn't cry because I was upset. I cried because that's how I felt like when I got my hip replaced. I felt like I got a new lease on life. And I felt like that was a great visual representation of how I was feeling on the inside. Because I can't explain it to people who, you know, have never gone through like a major replacement like that before. But I literally felt like I got a new lease on life. I wasn't able to work. I couldn't claim disability because my fiance was making too much money, because that's stupid. I can go on to that
making
about
too
you.
much money isn't that much money for anyone. Who
Right, exactly. So it was just
what's
like,
the cutoff again? Like 28,000 a year?
It's something insane.
It's something like that. You cannot make more than $2,000 a month. And if you do, they will take away your disability. Our Canadian in the audience going, excuse me?
Yeah, I just liked hearing you say that about Victor, because I was just curious, because I mentioned Yakuza earlier, and then like we like went somewhere else, but this is spoilers for Like a Dragon, so if anyone doesn't want to hear it, please run away now.
Or cover your ears.
Well, one of the characters is in a wheelchair in the beginning, and you meet him again as like this villain, and he went to America to get like some surgery so he can walk now, but he does it first by taking drugs. I don't know. But they had to get him out of the chair somehow, I guess. And I think of that as a good example of like, what the fuck is going on?
My only main issue with that is like, they're like, oh, you have, I guess that's like the, like, you don't. I'm trying to think of a way to word this like nicely.
I mean, first of all, why would they go to America?
Well, yeah, right. Well, because the point of the game is that like, if you have enough money, you can get like anything done in America. I'm like, I mean, to a point, like you can't. Well, this isn't disability. Like you can't get like breast implants at a certain point. So I would go somewhere else for that kind of surgery. But I mean, it's a Japanese game, so it is different.
Having someone run you down in their motorized wheelchair would not be the weirdest thing.
I know,
Yeah,
it's
right.
like,
You're
what?
absolutely
Like,
correct. And
like-
it's Friday,
yeah.
so.
That's a sick idea for a protagonist.
Exactly. Because like he doesn't have to be like happy. Like, I'm in a wheelchair and I'm happy about it, because he talks about how like hard his life is specifically in Japan. Because I mean, like even and if you go to New York, like in a wheelchair, there you can't get anywhere.
Yeah, right.
There's a great video of this guy trying to get one of the rainbow bagels that was popular a couple years back.
I do remember
And it
this
took him,
video,
like,
yes.
It took him like 8 hours to get there.
Just
Because
because he was disabled, yeah.
Yeah, because nothing is handicapped. You couldn't even get no elevator.
Yeah.
So
Really?
does not game, but it's just like
I do have an issue when they do villainize those who are disabled. I'm not saying a disabled person doesn't have the capability to be a villain, but
You're right
I
here.
feel like it's a more yeah, I'm right here. But I feel like it's a more common thing because they're like, oh, well, you know, this person hated their life and blah blah blah. And I'm like, I'm sitting here like, bro, I'm disabled. I didn't exactly hate my life, but like.
I'd say a bunch of examples of that from like recent stuff, like spoilers for Ruby, but with the character Ironwood. Eventually, this kept turning to the villain, and the reasoning behind it was like, one, he kept losing his limb, he said he was losing like parts of his humanity, and becoming more machine that way. And then when they revealed what his power was, people said, oh, you've been in your own version, and that's why you turned evil.
That's a very common thing I've noticed, like in video games and media before, is once they get like physical body replacements. I know they mentioned it in Arcane when they're sitting in the counselor's office. One of the counselors, I don't know who he is. He's a fat, ugly one. But he goes, he's like, yeah, they're limb replacements and da 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 da. Like, okay, bro, sometimes they gotta be replaced, buddy. Like, I don't want to be.
Yeah, it's so.
Yeah, that doesn't dehumanize you.
As far as even researching media go, I thought Genlock did that a lot better. If anyone has seen Genlock,
I haven't.
because the main character, the one that Michael B. Jordan voices, has zero use of his body.
Mhm.
He's missing, I think, 3 other programs. He can only really interact with people as a hologram. And he stays heroic the entire time. He's, you know, obviously he's trying to cope with what has happened to him and these injuries that he's received, but at no point is it like he's taking his ability because of what's happening.
I think the best piece of media that ever handled a disability, and this isn't a video game, but I know y'all are gonna know, is Toph from Avatar. They absolutely did that perfectly.
Absolutely.
If there could be more writing like that, I think people would really excel, because she did talk about her struggles with her parents and stuff like that. And they're like, oh, well, you're just a helpless child. No, I'm not. Ends up becoming like the best. Yeah, like spoilers for Avatar if you haven't seen it. Yeah, you know,
Sorry.
she becomes a metal bender. She becomes a complete badass and stuff like that. And it doesn't define her. And one thing she does that I absolutely love is she jokes on herself all the time because of it. And that's like something like me and my friends do openly, is like we joke, because what else are you going to do? I'm not going to sit here and live in misery for the rest of it. By all means, I hear you over there. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, you might as well just make fun of yourself.
Right. The world's making fun of me. Why am I not going to sit here and make fun of myself?
I've
like,
lost count of how many times
vaccines given me autism.
Right, exactly. You're like, oh, well, I got autism plus now.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
what about you? Get on my level.
I basically radiate 5G at this point.
I know for me, I was at NecoCon and I was actually cosplaying Isabel, and I was struggling getting up, and my fiance was like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, it's a no bones day for me. And like, you know, stuff like that. Like, you gotta sit there and laugh at yourself, and you gotta you kind of gotta roll with the punches and stuff. But I do hate it when media, I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying like no one's capable of becoming a villain, but I hate it when like that's a comment that, to me, that's very akin to my mind's blank right now. I'm trying to I know what I want to say. It's just coming out of my mouth. To me, that's the same thing of painting villains as you know, they're LGBT, so they have to be a villain. I think it's in the same kind of light.
Yeah, I don't equate, like, if you lose a limb, like, I've never equated morality with, like, the amount of flesh you have. That's so confusing to me.
Yeah.
Cut off my hand, I want to rule the world. Like, that's how I feel like it is.
Which one?
I think that, especially in like fantasy and sci-fi genres, there's so much room to have really creative disabilities. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but like.
No, that makes sense.
We've got so many cool types of prosthetics.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Or like Stacy sci-fi versions of different tools for people with disabilities.
And it's nice to see, yeah.
I love when they do that. I think that's so cool.
It makes you feel seen.
Yeah.
It's the perfect genre to put more in. You can keep it really creative and featurey or fantasy.
Yeah, it's really nice too, because I don't know why she would be here, but my stepsister only has one arm, and she has a prosthetic, but she never wears it because it's so uncomfortable. Because it's like she's missing her arm, and like when you wear it, it's like
bigger than your clothes. I know that.
I mean, they've like done things now, but comes into like the cost of things. So it is like, it pinches her skin, so there's no reason to wear it. But then when you see like all this great like fictional media, or like in video games where it's like you have a cool robot arm and it can like,
I mean, look at
do
Full Metal
this.
Alchemist.
Yeah.
Did anyone
Oh,
think
yeah.
Ed was less of a person because he had the arm and the leg?
No,
No,
it
he
made
sat there and was still badass.
Him
But it's
cooler.
interesting because I feel like, you know, the casual layperson who might watch that might not think like, oh yeah, Ed is disabled.
Yeah.
Right, but you're just
I
like,
haven't watched Full Metal Alchemist, which is like, the disclaimer here. So I don't know if in the anime or the manga they make like a big deal out of it or whatever.
they don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
He does, and he mostly jokes on himself for it too. But like,
Because he still has to go in and get his stuff adjusted, and it doesn't necessarily work as he pulled out, but that's...
and see, that's why I like that they show that. I'm sorry, not to cut you off. That's why I like it that they show that, because it's not, oh well, I have a prosthetic and everything's fixed and it's lovely, hunky dory, and that's not the case. It shows that, and but like you said, like most of the normal people probably wouldn't think like, oh, they're disabled, and it's like, no, actually they are.
Well, I also think about, like, going back to anime too, like, Ghost in the Shell, like, technically,
Sure.
like, she goes into a horrific accident, and she is essentially, like, she's essentially entirely disabled.
Right.
But I also just love that anime, because it's like, they created a dystopian environment around the idea of the ghosts. Sorry, this is spoilers, I guess.
That's fine.
How long has Ghost in the Shell been out for? I think you're fine.
We've spoiled everything.
But it's like, oh, it's somewhat dystopian that people are, like, so separated from their souls and bodies that they literally have to talk about them as if they're a separate item. But because of that, she's able to function and excel in society.
Right, and she's still very much there.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, like, she has her own, like, ranks, especially, like, especially in standalone comics where they talk about, like, her breaking the doll, and it's literally in the intro sequence.
Yeah.
She breaks the doll, so child doesn't know the strength of the body. But it's like, I feel like her character is, like, a great example of, like, being able when you're not able.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and like when you mentioned like, having disabilities shown in a cool way, I just thought of Legend of Korra, which take that as you will. I know I keep bringing Avatar in, but I think her name was Huon, the waterbender who didn't have any arms. Like that was like cool as shit. Like how they portrayed her. I was like, okay, go off.
Yeah.
In the Avatar universe in general,
Yeah,
Yeah.
like they really, I feel like that was probably one of the first pieces of media, like especially for children, that represented disability in a very like good way.
Yeah. I feel bad because we've not talked about gaming that much at all, but in our defense, it's not our panel.
We came
This
unprepared.
is really unprompted.
Yeah, I mostly play visual novels, and it's been like disabilities. Am I right, fellas? Don't ask about how much hearing aids cost because you pay out of pocket for them.
Yes, you do.
Oh my god.
Say though that bringing back to video games, I didn't even realize that this would actually help me in my just regular media consumption. But as a child, I really did enjoy having subtitles there.
Yeah.
Right.
I didn't even acknowledge it as like a crutch. I literally acknowledged it as like it's just part of video games with subtitles. There's a lot of JRPGs. But it's like, and then like as I entered watching streaming media as I got older, watching TV shows, I always struggled with following narrative, and I just thought it was just me not having a great attention span.
Right.
And then when I realized, I think I watched The Witch, which is a great movie the other day. I'm not going to spoil it. But you can't understand.
That's the one thing we won't spoil
Oh
here.
my gosh.
I will not spoil it. But it's like that film in itself, their accents are so thick.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
subtitles, but I understand everything that's happening in this movie.
I work in a call center, so I completely understand and empathize with that because sometimes I'm just like, yeah.
After watching that, I realized that, oh my goodness, that's why I connected. Part of why I connected so well with video games, especially narrative-heavy video games. Those are the ones that usually have all the subtitles.
Oh yeah.
Wait, this actually is something that's super helpful for me to understand. So now, even though I don't have a hearing disability, but I literally watch subtitles no matter what.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's so funny that everyone who's been talking about this is we've had this issue our entire life, and it's not until later in life that you kind of realize oh, this is what's happening, which I think is interesting when we talk about accessibility in gaming and just how we're seeing that in general, how it is changing from what we were used to younger. I don't know why this is, and now that we're more actively discussing these
Your man's is raising his hand.
You never think you need help. It's just oh, everyone struggles with this.
Yeah,
Right, exactly.
Everyone thought I was just ignoring them. Actually, I needed hearing aids. Well,
No, it's okay. He doesn't matter.
no.
But it's actually interesting because I'm really going back a few topics here, but it still connects.
Oh, by all means.
Please do.
So I work in the research industry, and I'm a designer. I don't do the actual research, but I'm constantly involved in helping with resourcing, and I work a lot on accessibility. Not necessarily by choice. I'm the one.
Nope.
But I literally see a lot of the problems they have, and they've dealt with we work with gaming companies and stuff, and
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Like, they actually do try to find people to create, like, you know, like, better testing work.
Yeah.
It's literally finding people to show up. That actually is a challenge, like, whether or not they can because of work and stuff.
Yeah.
So another challenge there is literally they're having challenges with finding the right questions because just like you mentioned, it's like the questions haven't come to their mind.
Oh, right. Well, and with the people showing up, it's like, well, do they have are they in an accessible situation to be able to show up and stuff like that? Because like, I know I'm 28, but I've never driven in my life because of my leg. I only now am I able to start like going out and getting a driver's license and stuff like that. I know you had your hand up. Go ahead. You do matter.
Yep.
Kind of, just a little bit.
You also had your hand up, I want to say, right?
Bringing back to the topic of, again, accessibility options in games, accessibility is getting a lot more progressive. I'd say there's a lot more being implemented. I think the general attitude towards it from the general public definitely needs to change.
Oh, absolutely.
Playing games on a low difficulty is some sort of sign of weakness to it. And then you look at, personally, in my opinion, games like Dark Souls, Bloodborne, the drop all FromSoft games should have assisted modes or low difficulty. Even if many people would absolutely disagree with that.
Oh, yeah.
It's part of the experience for it to be difficult.
Why are you going to exclude people from your community? That's literally what it comes down to.
Playing it on a low difficulty doesn't invalidate your experience on a high difficulty, for instance, but also for some people, playing it on a low difficulty would be as difficult as you.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I feel like these games, like sometimes when you like have that experience, it's kind of like this like nice like club, like you meet other like-minded people. But I don't understand why. Like I get why kind of, but I feel it is odd because I don't think a lot of people recognize that they're really closing off a lot of people for reasons that aren't entirely fair. It's like, well, why don't you just like get good? It's like what,
bro? I can't.
I physically can't.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Go ahead.
Added in like your difficult, your modes or like assisted mode or the best example.
Right, because we were literally talking about that last night because I want to play SMT and I was like, can I?
Like the Nocturne remake, they added in the voice acting, which people don't really think about.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I remember watching a YouTube video like a while, like a long time ago, and like you were saying like, oh, like she would like Nocturne more if that voice acting because she was dyslexic.
Yeah.
Reading the subtitles because it was just a lot.
Well, and I like Catherine. Catherine's probably one of my favorite games, but I've never played Catherine because of the puzzles and stuff like that. It wasn't until Full Body came out where they actually did like easy mode and I could like play with a partner and stuff like that. Did I feel like I could actually be a part of it? And I personally hate it because I feel like I'm being excluded because it's like, oh, well, you know, just because you can't play this game or you watch someone else play it doesn't mean you're like a real fan or something. People are very gatekeepy over it. I do hate to say this, but there's like a minute left. So if there's any last minute questions, by all means, go
or you
ahead
can talk to us afterwards. I feel like a lot of people here came for a certain thing, which I wish that they could have been here too. And some people might be like a hostage here because they feel bad walking out on disabled people. But I appreciate you staying.
Thank you for sticking with us, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh,
Guys.
there you walk out.
Can we have an after panel about Katawa Shoujo?
Oh,
I feel like we could talk for like 30 minutes
my
about
God.
it.
I don't know what that is. I don't know what that
Okay,
is.
so Kawada Shoujo is like an Otome game,
Oh,
but it's
sorry, you can
based.
stop whatever's going on.
It's based around